Good morning. It is Thursday, February 26th. I'm Elizabeth Hasselbeck. A Fox News alert. ISIS in America. 3 men from New York arrested in an alleged plot to join ISIS, even threatening to kill the President of the United States. But our Secretary of State says we've never been safer. What?
Despite the visible killings that you see, we are actually living in a period of less daily threat to Americans and to people in the world than normally.
So are we really safer right now? That's the question.
That is a good question. And Hillary Clinton's got a cash problem. Brand new developments surrounding the Clinton Foundation with her husband and Chelsea, and who funneled in money while Hillary was running the Department of State. That's an ethics violation in some cases.
And they're lighting it up on our nation's capital. We're talking about marijuana. It's now legal in Washington, D.C. But this morning, a scary new report on how dangerous pot is when you are pregnant. Mornings better with friends.
Hey, I'm Tony Danza, and you're watching Fox and Friends.
Tony Danza, one of the great entertainers of our time.
That's right.
A song and dance man, lives just a dozen blocks from
So
here.
And a boxer.
talented.
And a
That's
taxi
true.
driver. He can do it all.
Love
Hey, thanks
watching.
for joining us on this Thursday. Let's get right to that Fox News alert. And this is troubling. Our worst nightmare could be true. Would-be terrorists trying to join ISIS with plans to return to carry out attacks right here in the United States.
Yeah, this came down yesterday afternoon. The FBI nabbing 3 New York City residents as they plotted to travel to Syria to wage jihad.
Ainsley Earhardt joins us now with the chilling details on this. Good morning to you, Ainsley.
Good morning, Elizabeth. The scariest part of this entire case is not just the threat of them leaving the U.S. to go and join ISIS, but what they would have done when they returned.
This is real. This is the concern about the lone wolf inspired to act without ever going to the Middle East. The idea that it was made quite plain, based on their own statements, that if they were not able to go, that they would seek to acquire weapons here, handguns, machine gun, and seek to attack, very specifically, police officers.
Here's what we do know about these suspects. A 24-year-old legal resident, originally from Uzbekistan. He worked alongside the 19-year-old at a local restaurant, and that suspect was originally from Kazakhstan. The third suspect down in Florida has overstayed his visa. He's charged with financially supporting this entire plot. 2 of the men arraigned in a Brooklyn courtroom as investigators revealed that they first began tracking the trio last year after a series of online posts on an ISIS propaganda forum, including this post. Quote, "I am in USA now, but is it possible to commit ourselves as dedicated martyrs anyway while here? What I am saying is to shoot Obama and then get shot ourselves. Will it do? That will strike fear in the hearts of infidels."
The government has not only their own words on social media, their messages to each other, but they also had a paid confidential informant who was with them and recorded their own voices speaking about all of their plans, including wanting to kill the president.
The FBI Director James Comey says because of their powerful social media recruiting, ISIS has infiltrated the entire country.
We have investigations of people in various stages of radicalizing in all 50 states. This isn't a New York phenomenon or a Washington phenomenon. This is all 50 states, and in ways that are very hard to see.
The man arrested down in Florida is now awaiting his court date, which will be on March 3rd. If convicted, they each face up to 15 years in prison. Back to you, Elizabeth, Brian, and Steve.
All right, Ainsley, thank you very much. That final soundbite from James Comey, the guy who heads up the FBI, that's terrifying.
It is.
Okay, we've known that there have been radicals here in the New York City area. And by the way, these are 3 Muslim extremists. But for the FBI director to say they are tracking ISIS wannabes in all 50 states, that's crazy. Remember, it was just 3 weeks ago today that the President of the United States went on Vox and he said, you know, the media, they focus too much on terrorism. You know, there are random things out there with a bunch of folks. This was not random. These were plotters. They weren't folks, Muslim extremists who wanted to kill us.
Well, and they were being pounded online, right? Their communication, the ability for ISIS to reach those that they wish to recruit has increased exponentially. Loretta Lynch says the flow of foreign fighters to Syria represents an evolving threat to our country alone. We know that this threat exists. It's now expanding to all 50 states right here on our homeland. Yet Secretary of State John Kerry seems to say time and time again, he just said this, the world has never been safer. Can you believe this?
Our citizens, our world today is actually, despite ISIL, despite the visible killings that you see and how horrific they are, we are actually living in a period of less daily threat to Americans and to people in the world than normally, less deaths, less violent deaths today than through the last century.
I'd like to see the stats on that. Also, this is a time in which our number one enemy in the world, Iran, is doing mock bombings of our aircraft carrier, where they just had hung Barack Obama in effigy.
They did.
And the Secretary of State also in the streets of Tehran, in which the terrorists have taken over Libya, and the terrorists have taken over much of Iraq, and the current leadership in Syria has killed 100,000 of their own people. So if you think it's their problem and we're safer here, well, their problem is coming here, as you saw yesterday. Mark Thiessen, who wrote a great book on terror, was one of President Bush's key speechwriters, weighed in.
They don't take the threat seriously. It's the only thing you conclude from it. It's not just one flub. This is a constant mantra we're getting from this administration. And the reality is that the threat we face today is worse and more dangerous than the threat we faced before 9/11. Today you've got ISIS, you've got core al-Qaeda, you've got ISIS, you've got al-Qaeda's affiliates, and they're all competing for leadership of the jihadi movement. And they're not in one country, they're in Syria, they're in Iraq, they're in Yemen, they're in Somalia, they're in Libya, they're all over the world, and they have said clearly, the leader of ISIS has said, we are coming after you. The day is coming. My message to the Americans is, we will be in direct conflict, and the Sons of Islam have prepared for this day. What part of this do they not get?
Yeah, what don't they get? One of the mothers of one of these would-be terrorists actually got it. He told her, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to fight with ISIS. And the mom said, no, you're not. And took his passport away from him. He could not travel. So what did he do? He contacted the State Department. They sent him a new one.
Yeah, there was also contact back and forth between one of the wannabe terrorists there who said that he was anticipating having a hard time traveling and communicating with ISIS to actually, how can I get out of here without, now that I know that they're watching
My
me?
mom's got my passport.
Gosh.
But they had a plan B, and that's what's attack here if they couldn't get there.
Right.
One worked as a gyro shop, the other worked at a cell phone repair kiosk, the other one owned that kiosk.
Yeah. Right now we're also waiting. There are 220 Christians that we know that have been kidnapped, and we have seen how that has played out before. Just in the month alone, it is devastating anticipation that we're facing right now. So do you believe that John Kerry is right, saying that the world is safer today? Let us know what you think on Facebook, email, and Twitter. We'll read your comments throughout the program.
We will. And speaking of terror, we have a Fox News alert just in. The masked ISIS terrorist known as Jihad John has just been identified. According to his friends, he is from a well-to-do British family who has a college degree in computer programming. Back to that computer again. It is believed he traveled to Syria in 2012 and later joined ISIS. Jihad John, as he has been dubbed, appeared on the video of the beheading of American hostage James Foley and others. The British embassy saying anyone committing murder for ISIS will be severely punished. So now, apparently, he has been unmasked. They know who he is.
Great. Washington Post had that story today. And just something to keep in mind, too, it's just a matter of getting these rich people jobs. If we can just get the rich, privileged people with computer degrees jobs, we wouldn't have a problem. What's going on with that scenario?
Yeah, I love how you're like being sarcastic here, because when we time and time again when we hear these comments that, oh, they just need jobs in community centers to deter their recruitment to ISIS.
Yeah, let's let them play not
Sure.
It's not evidenced.
But you listen to the President of the United States when he's saying, you know, I wish the media would stop hyping terrorism. A real threat is global warming. He said that 3 weeks ago today.
And if it bleeds, it leads. And I'm not sure if that's true, but I know this. Heather Nauert's prepared to tell us something we need to know.
That's right. Back here at home.